Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hearing News. Kia ora Chewy.
Good evening, Pat. How we doing?
Doing well. How you doing, love?
I'm good. I'm good. You know what? I had to work today.
Yep.
But I've been watching people's experience around the country with Waitangi Day today, and you know, amongst all the grimness, I saw a lot of people out today marching and showing up and telling people what they thought was important. And it's a good feeling, man. Like, I felt proud of the people in Dunedin.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later on. I got down to the Octagon. Did you get down during your break, or did you work through?
No, that was like my busiest time of day. I was hoping to get out, just to go up for lunch, but yeah, absolutely no chance of getting out.
One thing I learned from going there today is every 20-something male band from Dunedin now sounds exactly like 660, and they were playing in the Octagon tonight. Whoever the band was sounded exactly like 660. It was great. It was good tunes. We sat there for a while, took the dog, and just listened and watched for a while. It was a good time.
Know what band that was. That was Black Sail House. They were a local band. I used to work with one of the guys in there. They are a good time.
As the kids say, shout out. Hey, before we rip into this, tonight, huge thanks to our patrons. Love it when you guys give me a problem having to redesign the board because more people have joined on board. If you want to be a part of what we do, patreon.com/Big Hearing News. So thankful to have you guys on. And like we always say, if you become a patron, we love you 22% more. And I think you become 4% taller and 7% more attractive. Is that right? Am I right?
So what I'm taking from that, Pat, is more names equals more problems for you.
Yeah.
That's money well spent, people. Get in.
Yeah. Give me a headache.
Create a problem.
All right. Now, obviously tonight, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about Waitangi Day. We're talking about the events at Waitangi. We are going to, trust me, give kudos where kudos is due to the one, the only Spider Hoof who is in the chat right now. I know you guys have all seen it, but like we said last night, this will lead the news tomorrow, and it was on every news channel. The breaking news that Spider Hoof. The one thing that pissed me off a bit is a couple of big outlets were like, a TikToker said, and it went viral on TikTok, but didn't actually give Spider Hoof creds. So we give creds. We gave creds last night, and we'll get back to that before the night is out. But it's like Spider Hoof's birthday. You want to say happy birthday as many times as you want. It was such a good event and such a good breaking that she did. We want to say well done as many times as we can tonight. So well done. Yeah, that's actually a TikToker, eh? A TikTok user, yeah.
Can we please acknowledge this bit? Luxon told the Herald the repetition was deliberate, and the role of the treaty in New Zealand has not changed in the last 12 months. That's why he did it.
Yeah, read the room.
What a solid answer.
What
an absolutely believable, solid answer.
Big hairy anus is my personal opinion. Right. Now, listen, we are very excited to have with us from the Aotearoa Liberation League, Pere Huriwai-Seger, joining us on his way from Whangarei, down State Highway 1. Where are you right now? Oh, you're in Whangarei now, from Waitangi to Whangarei, heading over the Brynderwyns down towards Wellsford. Good man, we got you in the car. When we used to do filming out and about, we found that the car was a very good place to record voiceovers because all the curved angles and stuff in the car, it doesn't bounce around so much. So it's a good place to talk to us. How are you, man?
Ka pai. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Tēnā kōrua and tēnā koutou. Koutou e whakarongo mai nei. Yeah, the car is a good space, but I'm parked outside a bar, and there are a lot of people enjoying themselves at the moment. So yeah, hopefully this goes all right.
Hey, let's just do this to start off with, because you guys are all over the place. But if people want to find out more about you, all.org.nz is probably a pretty good place to start. Find all the links in there as well to Facebook and the Instas and the Twiki-Twokkies and all that kind of stuff. So all.org.nz. Now, you've been at Waitangi. Just throwing you the ball. The floor is yours, sir. Tell us about Waitangi.
Oh, where do I begin? I mean, it's a special experience for someone like myself because, I'm a young, I'm getting, I'll call myself young. I'm a young Māori man who's reconnecting to his culture. I've kind of been on a reconnection journey for the last 3 or 4 years, and I'd probably say the majority of Māori are in my shoes. I mean, we are a colonized people. English is my first language. I consider my mindset to be a very, colonized Pākehā, to be frank, mindset. And it's kind of, we're kind of, I don't want to put us in a box, but I'll just talk from my own experience. I am a traumatized person when I think about my own culture and learning my reo. There's a lot of mamai, as we say. There's a lot of trauma that we go through and relearning things that we know have been taken from us, things that should be our birthright, but we're having to work and spend money and practice for, pursuing things that would have been normal for our ancestors. And so, Waitangi, it's a celebration, but then at the same time, we're like, wow, why are we celebrating this really, really shitty deal that our people went through? So it's a roller coaster of emotions for a lot of Māori, I'm sure. There's aroha, there's love, there's kotahitanga, there's coming together, but then there's all the reminders of how far we still have to go, what has been taken from us. But there's, at the end of the day, it's hope. It's definitely hope. It's a positive thing. I'm still buzzing, that's for sure. But yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster. And the way that the media portrays it, it's just your classic racism. I mean, they look at the porphyry, they look at the haka, they see men in their, grass skirts, and they think about tribalism, they think about cavemen and stuff like that. But these are our ceremonies, these are our rituals, this is part of our culture. And for the most part, the consistent message has been kotahitanga, unity, coming together and moving forward as a nation. But of course, we see the media focusing on what's really just a representational, quite shallow aspect of it, which is our customs, which are more formalities. But of course, our racist kind of mindset likes to look at it as, the Neanderthal type of, you know what I mean. But yeah. Emotional roller coaster, to be honest.
Well, that's interesting because the Waitangi Day event, commemoration, celebrations, whichever is the correct word to use, probably all of the above, depending on what hour you are in of the Waitangi Day events, look to be very different this year from probably for the last 20 years, probably back to the seabed and foreshore was the last time they were this sort of angsty. What did you take away from Waitangi when you were there and you've taken away with you? What are the thoughts, vibes, feelings you've come away with it with?
That we, iwi Māori, are very powerful, to be quite frank. The way that we've all come together, thanks, David Seymour, for bringing us together in this way. Thank you to all the racists who have made us realize that we're stronger together. But, oh, man, I mean, there's a lot of hope. There's just definitely a lot of hope. Māori are really starting to realize, well, I shouldn't say starting, but we now know, and we're solidifying, and we're realizing that we really need to get on top of things, narratives, messages, because we see various groups. I don't want to name them too much, but they're all working together very efficiently, very in an organized way, to try and maintain the status quo, the trajectory of the human race, of capitalism, of consuming all of our natural resources, that general trajectory of human destruction kind of thing. And for me, Te Ao Māori and our indigenous ways of relating to the natural world provides us with a potential alternative to the current human trajectory, the current human Western colonial trajectory of just consuming and chasing resources and money and clout and, things like that, and consumerism. And so for me, Waitangi was just a big reminder about decolonization, about alternative ways of existing and thinking outside of, the dominant colonial norm, the colonial trance that I like to call it. We see ourselves stuck in a certain way, and colonization tries to keep us there, tries to make us think that there's only one way of being. But then going to Waitangi and you see this huge event. I mean, there was like 6 or 7 music stages. There's not enough time to go and view everything. And it's a completely free event. They feed people. There's political discussions. There's all sorts of activity, you know, for the kids. They put on movies at night. There was a free concert, one of the best concerts that I've ever been to, a band called Illuminati, and one of the best concerts I've ever been to, and it's completely free. And for our ability as Te Iwi Māori to put on these huge events, we saw it with the Kingitanga, the Huia Motu, all of these things that we're capable of doing, and it's such a beautiful experience. You know, we're all dancing together, we're all eating together, we're all laughing together, having just a fantastic, amazing time, because we've all come together to contribute just a little bit. And yeah, it just fills me with so much hope and pride. I'm very proud. That's probably the right word. Coming from Waitangi and being a descendant of Ngā Puhi I Whakapapatu Rahiri, just proud to see what my people are capable of doing. And I know that, you know, we're all looking for fun places to connect with one another, to talk about things, you know, to scheme about the government and to have a say. And Waitangi is that place.
I'm interested the scheme about the government thing. I'm interested if you saw any of the politicians speak, and if you did, because we obviously, you know, we're best part of 2,000 kilometers away, so all we can get is the veneer of the television news or watching someone's live stream on TikTok or whatever. For someone who was there, you know, like the singing off of David Seymour, the booing of Winston Peters, then the politicians come out and they say, oh, it's just a couple of people, you know. So, but be interested to get your take, having been there, watching. I'm not just saying about those two, but the political messages altogether. What was the vibe? What did you take away from that? What was the feeling like amongst the audience to those speeches?
Well, you know, obviously we understand that the current government is anti-Māori. And so there's been a lot of build up to this. The sentiment among people, it was an interesting mix, because obviously tikanga Māori, mana kitanga, these are people who have been invited to speak. However, why are we giving these people these platforms if they're just going to repeat their same old speeches? And I give a big mihi to Spiderhoof for highlighting that about Christopher Luxon. Nothing new is brought to the table. Nothing new at all. They don't come to our gatherings to actually bring anything new to the table. It's all of their pre-prepared speeches. And as we saw from Christopher Luxon, nothing new, no solutions whatsoever. And not even, you know, there is no sense that they're actually contributing to the conversation. They're not there to listen. They're there to give their pre-prepared agenda and to try and do it in a way that leaves the door open in an ambiguous way, and they try to just get away with what they can as safely as how they feel they can. And they fill the time. I mean, Christopher Luxon was talking about how Captain Cook, you know, the first European to discover Aotearoa. And it's like, why are you filling? This isn't a history lesson. You're here because you're meant to be talking to Māori and listening to Māori. You're meant to be there to show that you can hear us. You know, you're meant to be there to say, I hear what you're saying and this is what we're going to do about it. But instead, they fill the time with, you know, pointless nothingness. I
think the point about hearing you guys, hearing Māori is absolutely the thing that has been missed, and interesting to see so many of the mainstream media. And I think basically based on the work that Spiderhoof did, I'm completely going to give her all the credit for this, coming out saying, does that mean you weren't listening? Does that mean you haven't listened? Because if I was going to be fair and I was going to say the speech 12 months ago was pretty much the same as the speech this year, that might be okay if there were no differences in society, i.e. the speech last year was, but especially amongst Māori and the government, there is a huge difference at the moment to that interpersonal relationship and what's going on. So to think that you could bring out 12 months ago's speech to today is not just disrespectful. It just once again shows how Chewy says it best all the time, that he's just not very good at this and he doesn't know how to read the room. Chewy, what do you want to add to that, Chewy? Because you haven't had a chance to talk yet. I've been hogging the line.
Yeah, I keep on certainly. I've been talking about this speech with a bunch of people today, right? And it's just, to come with the last year's speech because you brought last year's jacket or something. I don't know, but to just absolutely bobble the fact that you knew this was coming, you knew this was going to be a very robust discussion at Waitangi. You've seen all the previous speakers get up, make their points, fire back, be challenged, and you haven't at any stage gone, maybe I need to come up with something different. Maybe I need to acknowledge some of the things that have been said, not just in the past 1 month, 2 months, but so much has changed in the last 12 months to just deserve an updated speech.
Yeah,
I think it shows a disinterest and a disrespect that he might want to brush away, going, oh no, we want, of course we want good outcomes for Māori. Of course we acknowledge the treaty. Of course it's about KPI this and KPI this, and we know that your kids aren't going to school, so we need you to do more on that. It's just disrespect. It's a lack of understanding, and it just speaks to how long this man has not been in New Zealand. He spent most of his adult life in North America. So what does he know? What does he know about the advances that have been made, have been fought for over the last, like I think of the changes in the last 20, 25 years. There's been so much change, and that's time that he was out of this country. Can't trust him.
Yeah, and I'll just say, and when you're speaking on the marae, the normal protocol is really to weave in what the opposite side has said. I mean, the tikanga for Ngā Puhi is generally the hosts go first, and then the manuhiri responds. And, it's meant to be a response, Yeah. You're meant to weave, and it's meant to show that you're listening and that you're feeding into their kōrero, that you've heard them. This is your thoughts on their opinions and what they've gave. And so Tama Pōtaka, he did a bit of that himself. He's used to speaking in those spaces, and I guess they thought that was enough. But that type of energy of seeing that the Prime Minister is actually aware and willing to have that kind of reciprocal conversation to show that he is actually listening and not just going to read off his pre-prepared speech is really essential in those spaces. And it just speaks to the fact that his constituents that he's really speaking to are not Māori.
Yeah. Hey, Pere, we've got a bunch of other stuff to do tonight to talk about it, but we don't want to cut this short. Is there anything you really want to leave us with? We love to be educated. Teach us something. Anything you want to leave us and the people watching with as we wrap up for this evening?
All I would like to say is thank you to all of our tangata tiriti, all of the people out there who have taken time to learn about Te Tiriti o Waitangi and about colonization and about Te Ao Māori. Thank you. Because as much as we Māori are kind of indigenizing ourselves, as we like to say, or learning about our own culture, we are the minority, and we do not have the ability to sway the political parties in the way that the rest of the country does. And so Māori, we need our neighbors, we need our partners, we need our friends, we need the rest of our family who are not Māori. So I just want to give a big mihi just to everyone out there who's given us a spare thought in their day for Waitangi Day. Thank you to everyone. And please do know that in Te Tiriti o Waitangi, there is protection within that document for all of us, not in the way that David Seymour talks about it, but the way that I look at it is that the natural world is also tied into Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And for me here in Aotearoa, the last safeguard that we have to protect the natural world is in Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And so it's not just about Māori, it's about the holistic well-being of our entire, not just our country, but our entire world, because we also have the opportunity to set an example to an alternative system instead of the current destructive trajectory that the human race is on. So yeah, that's probably what I'll leave it with. Kia ora, and yeah, thank you to Spiderhoof once again. Beautiful content.
Yeah, well, just before you take off, Pere, because Spiderhoof has sent us a super chat, and I think this is a message for you. Kia ora, love your mahi and the inspiration you bring to so many of us.
Kia ora,
kia ora. And also Ethan Paki has sent through a message saying, aroha to Pere, Eru and Hori. for leading the protest against the government yesterday. Proud to be there with my partner and stand alongside with them. Last thing I'll leave you with is, I mean, like we're talking about non-Māori in this conversation as well. I think the thing that resonates with me and Chewy, speaking on your behalf, Chewy, I know it does, is when Professor Margaret Mutu came on last week, Chewy asked her that question, what can non-Māori do in the situation? And one of the big things she said was be the buffer, like stand in the gap and be a buffer for the I guess, sorry to be colonising here, but as Shakespeare said, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, what's thrown at Māori, non-Māori can be a buffer and stand in the middle. And, I guess take some of the heat might be the way that I interpret it. And I guess that's what we just hope we can do, if nothing else, to see these stories and these messages continue on loud and proud.
Kapai. No, excellent.
Right.
Thank you. And can I also just say as well, I need to say, colonization hurts all of us. It's not just Māori who are colonized. We're literally all colonized. So a pathway out of this colonized state that we're all currently existing in is a benefit for all of us. So once again, thank you to everyone.
Absolutely.
All the best, Pere. And your lighting in the car is spectacular. I don't know if you've got a ring light going on, but you've done very well. You've done this before. There you go. Well done, sir. We'll catch you again soon, bro. All the best.
Kapai. Kia ora kōrua.
Cheers, mate.
Also, a super chat there from Kuka we just put up there as well. Thanks for the $5, Kuka. Appreciate that. Oh, and once again, Pere's gone, but let's just remind people, if you want to find out more about what the Aotearoa Liberation League does, it's all.org.nz, and then you can find the links to Facebook and YouTube and the Instas and the TikToks and the anything else. all.org.nz. Right, Chewy. Is there anything in the chat you'd like to get to?
What have I got in the chat?
Shall we rip on?
Yes, I have got some stuff in the chat. I have been paying attention. Dr. Ratweasel, Spiderhoof, New Zealand's only functioning investigative journalist. There you go. Spiderhoof does whatever Spider doof. Maybe if Spider goes out clubbing.
But you got to do it with the right rhythm. It's got to be Spider Hoof. Spider Hoof does whatever a spider hoof can.
And I just want to jump on a word that Pere used as well. And I think I felt that a couple of times reading through various things online. Pride. Like we've been talking about people standing up, and what I saw in various photos from around the country is it wasn't just Māori on the line. They had support, and that shows that the world that Seymour thinks he's talking to, the New Zealand that he thinks is out there and supports what he wants, it's not what he thinks it is.
Yeah, and we will have a look at some of Seymour's comments on Q&A this morning. We're not going to do a lot of it. Don't panic. Don't run away. But there's one particular part which I think just signifies and shows us exactly that he is on another planet with this. He just doesn't get it. And really what's behind it for him is, I want because I want. I want because I think I'm going to put my measurement of what's fair on this. No matter what logic comes to him, no matter what arguments come at him, which are all perfectly feasible and logical and legal sometimes, he's always just, no, this is the way to do it. That's really, it's like, I don't know. It's sometimes like I've said this lots of times on the show. I often say to people, if I'm going to have a debate with them, are you prepared to change your mind? And if they say no, often I'll say, well, thanks anyway, but I'm not looking for an argument. Someone needs to be prepared to change and move their position to have a good faith conversation. He's not. He's just not. And you'll see that when I show you probably a couple of minutes of the clip from today. But sorry, Joe, you were going to show us some stuff as well?
I was also, I've just seen a fantastic comment come through from Peter, and I think this is a really good point, because decolonization is one of those, it can be such a challenging word for people.
Yeah,
because decolonization, that means they want to get rid of white people. I've been called a colonist before. I've seen white people called colonists. Decolonization doesn't mean Pākehā have to pack up their stuff and go. That might be a fundamental misunderstanding for some. Absolutely. And this is what I'm talking about. If someone that is born and raised in this country, but obviously not of this country, I'm Scots-Irish, But I grew up in this country. I want to see structures in place that reflect what this country is. I get pride from seeing things like a pole flirty. Like coming back into the country recently and seeing the arrival gate for international arrivals and beautiful carving and that sort of thing. You're not going to see that anywhere else in the world. Like that's what I want to see. I don't have a huge understanding of te reo, but I try. I use my context clues, but I love hearing it because you don't hear it anywhere else. It is home to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people need to just relax a little bit and just realize that this is our country and it's all of it. Yeah. We can't minimize Māori out of that conversation ever. It's
an interesting way you've just worded it. I love hearing it, even though you can't speak it so well. As you're saying that, I'm just thinking, I love hearing tuis. I love hearing, kakapo. I love hearing the sounds of New Zealand that make me feel like I'm in New Zealand. Hearing Māori be spoken is sort of like that. I'm not trying to minimize it and say it's just like a bird singing, but there is a sound, a breath, a sound that comes from this country, and a literal sound. And hearing Māori spoken and seeing it written, I guess, as well, and is a part of the feeling and the sound of the nation. And I hear, and I mean, it goes the other way. Like my sisters all did the big OE thing where they went overseas and lived in London for 8 years, and worked. I never did that, but they did it. And my eldest sister, when she came back to New Zealand, I think the story she tells is she was in Newmarket walking along and she heard behind her either someone speaking Māori or a real Kiwi accent. I can't remember which one it was. And she swung around because there was a New Zealander, because when she'd been living in London, that's how she'd hear an accent and gravitate. She was now in New Zealand, but because of the previous 8 years, she'd been acclimatized to hearing that and going to it. So there's a sound that comes from this country that you go, I'm home, and Māori is one of them, even if you don't speak it. And look, can I be honest? Everyone speaks it, because as soon as you say whakatane, you're speaking Māori. That's one of the stupid things about English first. What are they calling taupo at the moment? What are they calling whakatane? They're not using English first for those. It's ridiculous. Anyway, go to it.
The other thing I wanted to say is maybe my sympathy and sort of openness towards what Māori are doing. As you mentioned, my heritage is Scots-Irish. 2 colonized people. So
preach.
Yeah.
Preach. My Catholic brothers in Northern Ireland, I'm with you.
Yep.
All right, let's rip on, shall we? Because we are covering some other things to do with Waitangi today. And if you've seen the thumbnail for today's episode, you'll see that I've gone back into my radio roots and I've used lots of alliteration because I said Tova's terrible take. So Tova O'Brien.
Yes.
Tova O'Brien did an article that came out today, 8 o'clock this morning, talking about, I'm assuming she was at Waitangi. I'm pretty sure she must have been at Waitangi, and talking about it. And it goes on to account a few things. It's a nice story. Then she gets to a part which I'm kind of thinking, like, were you watching the same speeches and stuff that I was watching? I'll read it to you. Christopher Luxon opted, because she just talked about who was speaking and what they did and how they were talking, right? Then she says, Christopher Luxon opted for about the most pedestrian beige, middle of the road approach you can take to a stump speech. And this wasn't a stump speech. That may sound like a criticism, but after his deputy prime minister had let rip, Luxon's speech actually landed about right and seemed the appropriate approach to take. I love hearing Pere just talking there about what happens. Like, and I don't understand the marae. It's not my culture, but I'm learning it. You get welcomed on, you get spoken to and challenged, you then respond to it. A pre-prepared speech almost can't, you could have portions pre-prepared, but you need to respond to what's happening in front of you. So for Tova O'Brien to say that this was the appropriate action to take, the appropriate approach to take, she says he definitely could have loosened up a bit from the pre-prepared rehearsal and scripted speech, as was pointed out by Waitangi Trust Chair Peter Tippany, who said that they would have liked a more free-flowing discussion about the treaty. Whether you love or loathe what they were saying, one thing was that the speakers should be respected for, left, right, whatever, they were unapologetically themselves. Now, the thing about that being apologetically themselves, if what you're saying is he was beige, that means if he's apologetically himself being beige, I think that just speaks to everything about someone who doesn't have any personality or charisma or anything to lead a country in any kind of direction. So I've got more. There's several parts of this conversation, Chewy, but you're welcome to respond to that to start with. That's Tova's terrible take, is what I'm calling that.
Oh, Tova, what speech were you watching? Yeah, like I was stunned when I heard this. Someone flicked me a message and told me about it. And you came into work to tell me about it, and I'm just like, what? Like this, it's so glaringly against everything else that I've read and my own reactions to seeing that speech. I'm just like, Tova, you can get it right sometimes, but Jesus Christ, it's not this time. Far out.
What I wished, and I came home and looked for this, I wished I could have found what she thought of Luxon's speech last year, when she was working for Today FM. Because if last year she was critical of it, because it was basically the same speech, surely she should have been critical of it, but I couldn't find it. So anything to do with Today FM is gone. So I don't know that, but that was my little, even though I'm not a journalist, but my little journalistic nerve went off going, I wonder what Tova thought of Luxon's speech last year. I wonder if it lines up with this year. Because you'll notice in that speech, in that report from Tova, at no point was there any comment made about repetition, which brings me to another part of this conversation. Have you heard of this character, Spiderhoof? I don't know if you've ever heard of this. So here's some stuff that's been happening today. The last night when we talked about this, do you remember, Chewy? I said, this will lead all the news bulletins tomorrow. And so what we've got, and this is the one thing that annoys me, and especially because this is TVNZ. Do you know how much TVNZ went off their nut at us for not giving them accreditation and using their content? Why wouldn't they mention Spiderhoof's TikTok? Right? TVNZ mentioned a viral social media video, also pointed out how some parts of the speech were similar to the one he gave 1 year ago at Waitangi as opposition leader. It could suggest, and this is interesting because what they did start doing is what Pere was just talking about, to do with not listening. It could suggest to some he simply is not listening, does not understand or does not care about the pain some Māori and their allies express over his government's policies. In short, to some, and we can see this expressed in the news and social media, it communicates he is out of touch. Now, if you're wondering what we're talking about, you didn't see us last night, let's just play like the first 30 seconds of this to show what Spiderhoof put on her TikTok yesterday. And you'll see how it's
20,000 views.
Well, that was this afternoon. What is it now? 20,000. Right. So this is what's. I won't play the whole thing, but you'll get it in the first couple of clips. Let's have
184 years ago, today, and 7 decades after Cook sailed south from Tahiti, Crown representatives and Māori came together to sign the Treaty of Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi.
183 years ago, Cook sailed south and 7 decades after Cook sailed south from Tahiti, Crown and Māori came here to sign the Treaty of Waitangi.
And we know that they likely had different understandings of what they were doing. And we know that in the years that followed, the promise and the obligations of the treaty were not upheld by the Crown.
And we know that they likely had different understandings
of what
they were doing.
Well, Spiderhoof actually, as people have been saying, sort of gets credit for breaking the story, and media followed up on it. Here's another one. This is, to their credit, New Zealand Herald talked about a TikTok user pointed out the similarities in a video labelled "When You Copy Last Year's School Assignment," and hope no one notices, except to their credit, they then embedded it. So, yep, given that credit that they needed. And it went on all day long. Now, this is from TV3 this evening, or News Hub, whatever it's called now. I'm going to play you some of this. This is when the television media started talking about it and asking Mr. Luxon about it. Remember, this is our national day and he is our Prime Minister. Reports everywhere are saying he ran from the media today and refused interviews on our national day. Could you imagine if the President of America on July the 4th went, nope, not talking to you, nope, media, go away. That's akin to what he did today. Let's have a listen to probably 90 seconds of News Hub from this evening.
Then unwilling to speak to media on Aotearoa's National Day. How was your first Waitangi?
Oh, it was fantastic. Had a great few days. Really enjoyed it.
Do you commit to coming to Waitangi every year as Prime Minister?
Oh, I've been coming for some time and I hope so.
He was here last year, but it's been noted a chunk of his speech yesterday was almost...
Noted. Thanks, Spiderhoof.
Identical to his last one.
183 years ago, 184 years ago, and 7 decades after Cook sailed south from Tahiti, and 7 decades after Cook sailed south from Tahiti, Crown and Māori came together to sign the Treaty of Waitangi. And on the 6th of February 1840, William Hobson and the chiefs assembled here at Waitangi. People just like us. And they were trying to navigate their way towards a united, stable, peaceful and prosperous future.
I actually still can't. I almost don't believe it. Like, honestly, when I saw this yesterday, when Spider put that out, I actually thought, I wonder if this is an error. I wonder if it's just the same year from two different angles. It obviously wasn't, but that was my initial thought, because this is so stupid. This is so ridiculous. Whoever is responsible for writing his speeches should be sacked today. Like,
it's so lazy.
And if he didn't know what he was doing, then that just speaks volumes as to who he is. I mean, like, if he picked it up from a speechwriter and went, this feels a bit familiar. Or if he didn't do that, but it is, obviously it is for real. That's how much I still almost can't believe it.
Prosperous future.
Did you copy and paste your speech?
Look, I mean, there's some great themes I wanted to talk about, which is actually making sure that people understood the treaty is part of our past, present and our future, and it will continue to be so.
But why did you copy and paste your speech from the year before? Did you not pick up the mantle to listen?
We've got some great work to do, and that's what we're going to carry on doing.
But why did you copy and paste your speech?
I think Christopher Luxon still thinks he's the leader of the opposition in campaign mode. Actually, he is the Prime Minister now. Now is his moment to start leading the whole of the country, not just the people who he's trying to get to vote for the National Party.
But today, Luxon didn't even want to speak to his voters, gapping Waitangi in a Crown car to avoid talking to everyone.
Can I just point out, though, in case Nicola Willis is watching, that Crown car is not a second-hand Corolla. Because, we would like to get a second-hand Corolla that will do the job just as well as that $250,000 BMW. It doesn't. Another case of maybe one rule for me and not for thee. One rule for thee and not for me. I think it's that way, isn't it? So, that goes on and on and on all day, right? We're going to also have a look to offset. Remember, this section is called Tova's Terrible Take. So that's just actually showing the reality of how far Tova missed the mark in her commentary. We're going to have a look at Simon Wilson, who we tried to get on tonight, but he had things on, what he wrote today in an article titled Christopher Luxon's Outrageous Waitangi Speech. So we'll look at that next. But for a start, Chewy, that's now all through the media, that whole, repetition. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, look, he's... The fact that he's gapped it, the fact that he was, in my opinion, clumsily trying to duck those questions. Like, he's... I've seen him better at ducking questions, put it that way.
Why did he say no? Did you copy and paste it? No, because it wasn't 100% the same. He wouldn't even say no.
Because then the follow-up question is, really? That's a follow-up question. He's not good at this. I mean, like, people have pointed out the difference between he's a CEO. He's a CEO. He's not a politician. He's not a public orator. He's come up through middle management in the corporate world, and that has no relation to what his job is now.
Yeah.
And whatever you think of a politician, whatever you think the skill set is, it is different from being a CEO, where your whole job is to deliver a dividend to shareholders. And that hasn't even been Luxon's job. Mainly, he's essentially middle management, area rep for Axe body spray or whatever.
I would really like to know. I'd like to know whether he did know that it was the same speech. Like, because some people might be so upper management, there's someone else writes their speech for them, they just pick it up and read it and nothing goes in. I'm actually not saying that in a mocking way. I wonder if he had no idea when he read it because someone else prepared it for him, and his job is just to read the teleprompter or pick up the speech and read it. I would really like to know that. But I have Gary in the chat has just he's just helped us all out, because this is apparently Gary's fault. Because Gary says, it's all my fault. I remember saying there's no way they could ever do worse than Judith Collins. Sorry. So there you go. Thanks, Gary. Sheesh.
Honestly, I think if it was just a clerical mix-up and someone gave him the wrong cards, I think Luxon's first instinct would be to throw an intern under the bus.
But hang on, it can't be a mix-up because it wasn't exactly the same all the way through. No. It's been prepared for this year, but I'd like to know when he was reading it, pre-reading it, looking at it, did he put two and two together? Did the person handing him the speech going, oh, hey, just so you know, boss, we're using 66% of last year's speech. I'd really like to be a fly on the wall for that part of the conversation. And maybe that's why he wouldn't answer, because if he goes no, the answer is then, well, who prepared it and how can it have been so similar? So maybe that was why he didn't say, no, it wasn't. I don't know.
So let's contrast it with someone else. Let's contrast it with his deputy leader. Do you think that Winston got up there with any cards at all?
No cards, no marbles. Just going for it.
I think Winston would have walked up to the mic thinking it's prison rules.
Yeah.
Just fucking come at me. Come at me, young buck. I'll put you in place. But, I mean, that's the thing. So, say what you like about Winston. He's a career politician. He spent his entire adult life doing speeches.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need cards. He probably just needs some prepared thoughts, and then he'll just fucking wait until someone takes a swing at him and goes on the attack. Luxon does not have that background.
Yeah. Yeah. Simon's got it as well. He might be a Ron Burgundy.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That was a very funny part in that movie. If people haven't seen, I'm sure you have, was when someone accidentally put a question mark in the prompter and you finish it by going,
San Diego.
There goes San Diego, because someone accidentally because he reads exactly what's in the teleprompter. Someone accidentally put a question mark. Look, I'm not actually accusing him of that, but what I'm saying is sometimes the minutiae behind the scenes is more interesting to figure out than what's happening in front of the camera, because I want to go, why did this happen and how did this happen? That would be fascinating. But let's. I
think we're putting a lot of weight on it, but at the end of the day, it is another piece of the shambolic puzzle that is our Prime Minister, and I think that is important. Like he keeps on saying platitudes to Māori. We think the treaty is important. Yeah. We're going to honour the treaty. We want great outcomes for Māori. But his first 100 days is absolutely packed with agreements that he's made with other parties to shit on Māori, to take away any sort of progress that could be made there. And he's been criticised for it. And he's had the opportunity to go, this Waitangi Day is going to be a fucking important one. I should bring my A game. And he hasn't. He either hasn't noticed it or he doesn't think that it's important enough, because it's not important to his voters.
Yeah. And look, speaking about that, I had a bit of a message from someone today. I'll do this tomorrow night about, now you'll hate this, Joey, and I apologize in advance, but I had a call from someone today about someone that I should check out some of the callers on News Talk ZB this afternoon.
Oh dear.
So I might go find some of those, and we'll have a listen to what the right really thinks of this whole thing maybe tomorrow. Speaking of this week as well, I won't mention the name in case it doesn't come together, but there was a historian today at the dawn ceremony putting out a message at Waitangi. I know him. I met him probably 20 years ago, and I've just been messaging with him, and it seems like we might be able to get him on Thursday night. So Pere, who was there, and this other gentleman who I won't name, and just in case it doesn't work out, we might have someone else who was actually there in the ceremony this morning at Waitangi, and that could be another interesting perspective. Hey, let's just do a contrast now. Well, we're not wrapping this conversation up yet, but let's just do a contrast as to our friend of the show, Simon Wilson, what he said about the speech. Now, I've got about 4 or 5 chunks to read out for you. Outrageous Waitangi speech is what Simon Wilson called it. This is what he was saying. He's saying it was pretty clear that the Prime Minister was saying something. He was saying this, quote, "We do not want to talk about the Treaty of Waitangi," during his speech, "and we do not want to talk about Te Reo, so we're not going to." Christopher Luxon didn't use those words, but he made himself plain by barely mentioning either of these flashpoint topics of the Waitangi commemorations. He would rather talk about growing the economy because he believes that will benefit Māori, and he would rather talk about education and housing because he believes making them better will benefit Māori too. So that's what he did. Asked later how he could have not realised the thousands of people on the treaty grounds expected some response to the big issues of the moment, he changed the subject. Later on in the article, in speech after speech, Māori leaders have expressed their fears that both the treaty and the language are under threat, and they have made plain their determination not to allow those threats to prevail. All those iwi were then invited to join the Manu Whenua. King Tuheitia joined with leaders from Ratana, and all the iwi and other Māori groups to welcome the manuhiri, the government guests. At the start of the pōwhiri, warriors from different iwi joined together to form Hokainga, and group that presents the Whero or challenge, the group that presents the Whero or challenge. These ritualized signs of unity are not unprecedented, but they are rare. This was historical, and Māori at Waitangi could not have made their combined strength of purpose more plain. For Luxon not to acknowledge this was insulting. I've got a couple more to read for you. If Luxon is to credibly avoid treaty and te reo debates, he has to bring them to an end. The hopeful way to look at the speech is that Luxon was signalling he will now shut down attempts by ACT New Zealand First and some of his own ministers to inflame the issue. What are the chances? I'm optimistic, but I asked David Seymour about it, and he told me my motto was, hope springs eternal. So there is that. Luxon, for his part, pretty much said Seymour's bill will not proceed, except he won't be unambiguous. The constant use of the frame, we have no intention, is not, it will not go past. Like, I need to hear him say, it will not go past the first reading. And I don't know why he's not doing that. To say there's no intention means, but it could still happen. Right? Like I said the other day, I don't intend to fall down when I walk out of the studio. It might still happen. So he pretty much said it won't, but he hasn't actually said it won't. Keep on going in the article. It's a long-standing policy of the National Party not to pursue a referendum of the treaty. Why did he even let the friction it has caused get to the stage it has? He changed the subject on that too. It seems fair to assume that if Luxon had his time in coalition negotiations over again, he would rule that treaty bill out straight away. But he doesn't have his time again, and he now enjoys the distinction of being one of the only people in history of this nation, certainly outside of war, to unite Māori the length and breadth of this town. The article finishes by saying, in the beginning and the end, though, the day belonged to two of those long-time land right activists, Annette Sykes and Tama Iti. So, compared to Tova's, yeah, but it was probably the right thing to do, I kind of get a little bit more grit and depth out of Mr. Wilson. What are your thoughts, Joey?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think if Luxon had his time again, he would absolutely make the same mistake.
I think so too, because he wouldn't get a government if he did it. Yeah.
Again, it's you got to look at what problem he was solving, and the problem that he was solving is that he wasn't the government. He needed to form a government. It didn't matter with who.
Yeah. And
that was it. ACT was smart enough to make it a fucking button issue for them.
Yep.
So that was frontline center of their negotiation. So he agreed to it.
Yep.
You're the leader.
100%. Yep.
You are the Prime Minister. You led the negotiations. That's on you, man. No matter how you might sort of want to distance yourself from it, you did it. You did it. And I think, I said the other week, I hope this is a rip the Band-Aid moment, and it's starting to feel like it is. Māori have come together. They have, like, we've seen, what is this? This is 4 big events now. They had that rally at Parliament. They had the King Tangahui. They've had Waitangi, and there was
Ratana.
What was the other hui? Ratana hui, with massive more numbers than they've had before.
Yep.
And we've got people like us calling for the same thing. So this is important to what we think the future of the country is. And don't rule it out.
Maybe this would be a good time to talk about Dunedin. I mean, you've got some stuff you want to share about Dunedin. Dunedin had a march today. I was working this morning. I didn't get a chance to get to the march, but I turned up about 1 o'clock this afternoon to the Octagon, and the concert was still going. So me and my partner and our dog kind of sat down on the grass and probably there for an hour, and it was lovely. But Chewy, have you got some stuff you want to show?
Yep, absolutely. When I was talking about feeling pride, like at bottom half of South Island, generally regarded as a pretty white part of the country.
But just for people's context, 1/12 the size of Auckland.
So yeah, that's what we managed. I saw somebody talking about it potentially being in the thousands. My partner went down, and just anecdotally, hearing people going, "Wow, there's a big turnout here."
Yeah,
there's a lot of people there's never been one like this before.
You got to think about proportionality. And I know people like to laugh at New Zealanders because we always go per capita, but if we're 1/12 the size of Auckland and there was a couple of thousand people, that's like a protest at Auckland getting 30,000. So it was, and I missed the protest, and I'm not taking any credit for that. I don't want to do no kind of seeking any glory for that. I wasn't there for that, but certainly the vibe afterwards at the Octagon for the concert was pretty freaking awesome as well.
Yeah, so there we go. More than 1,000.
Yeah,
I mean that looks to be almost 2 blocks.
Yeah,
full of people.
In the background,
I mean, it's hard to tell from that perspective.
Yeah,
but yeah, we haven't had this sort of turnout for Waitangi Day in Dunedin in my memory ever. So for me, that speaks to how many people are seeing what's happening in our political sphere, seeing the types of conversations that are happening from our nominal leaders, and going, oh shit, this is important. I can't just say stay in the comment sections anymore, or I can't just go, all of my friends agree with me, so people know I support this. This is people actually taking time out of their day where they could have just gone to the beach or had a barbecue or something and go, no, this is important.
Yeah. No,
and I think
it's exciting.
A lot of the conversation I saw on Q&A today came around the obviously this bill is going to go to select committee. National are going to support it. It's going to go through to the next round. That's public submissions. And we know that there are going to be submissions from people that want this bill to go ahead. So there needs to be people like these people that have turned out today, like the people in our chat, have to make submissions. Because otherwise these groups like Damien, Julia Batchelor's crowd of racists, I saw in the comment, the Rotorua Ratepayers Association that is circulating Hobson's Choice nonsense. Those guys can do a submission in their fucking sleep. They love submissions.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily. So maybe this time we need to make sure that we do.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I mean, Luxon saying we have no intention to means that people who are going to do submissions still think they're going to possibly get their stuff through. If Luxon could finish this tomorrow, I mean, I think I've heard reporters challenging him to rule it out now. And he just goes, we've been very clear. We have no intention. It's not clear, you fucking idiot. It's not clear. We're telling you it's not clear. You need to be unambiguous and clear by saying no National Party MP will vote for it after the first reading. That's what I need to hear. Now, in saying all of this, no National Party MP may vote for it. That may be the case, but he's not saying it. And it's a bit like talking earlier about what was the minutiae behind why he read that speech again. Why in the background is he not saying it? Is it because he's just trying to like give those people who give him their vote some kind of hope, which they're going to dash anyway? Because I've said this before. If there's going to be egg on somebody's face, right? There's going to be anger in somebody's quarter. If it goes through, it's those people who are protesting in Dunedin and Cuba Street at Waitangi who are going to be the ones who are angry if it goes through. If it doesn't go through, all these people who are voting for ACT and New Zealand First in particular, and the ones for National that still have their hopes up because he's using phrasing like we have no intention to, they're going to be angry. And then they still say this won't divide the country. This will absolutely divide the country. Either the people who don't get it are going to be pissed, or if you get it, the people who don't want it are going to be pissed. And this is thanks to David Seymour, which is probably a good time to move into Q&A from this morning.
Oh.
Sorry, let's take a breath. This first clip is very short. It's only 33 seconds. I wanted to play it for a particular reason, because so often Seymour does this, but probably, if I'm fair, all politicians do it. They use anecdotal evidence and people are telling me to back up why they're doing massive things. This is only 33 seconds. I want you to hear what he describes when he's talking about what people are talking to him about, or what's happening to people. And the reality is, yeah, okay, that might happen to one or two, but that's anecdotal, and that doesn't mean that's actually what's happening. Have a listen.
In a practical sense, it means that who gets consulted on resource consents. It sometimes means who gets jobs, and you'll see people who will say, in my workplace, I feel that people are being promoted.
You see people who will say, in my workplace, I feel. Now that just that by itself, in my workplace, I feel, he's using that as evidence for his position on the referendum, because people say, in my workplace, I feel. What do they feel, Mr. Seymour?
Who gets jobs, and you'll see people who will say, in my workplace, I feel that people are being promoted because there's an objective of having this many Māori or this relationship with the...
I feel that brown person has got a position above me because they're brown. I feel that. Now, that's either true or it's false, but it's not based in evidence. It's a feeling, it's a conjecture, and it's something that often people who probably would never get promoted look for an excuse to blame why the brown person got promoted above them. I feel, I think, people are. This looks like the way it's it. This has just got 19 seconds to go. I won't interrupt it again.
Honour the principles of the treaty. These are real problems that people are seeing in their everyday life.
That's what he's referencing, the I feel. The I feel are real problems. So he's just gone from this sort of anecdotally sort of story that someone's talked to him, and now he's going, these are real problems, like everyone's getting this.
And I think we have to decide, do we want to be a country that has equal mana for all citizens, or do we want to become a bit of a constitutional oddity where there's a two-track citizenship arrangement?
Right. So, Chewy, that's just the first little 30-seconder. The second part's going to be a bit longer. Do you want to say anything before we get into the second part?
I want to meet this person that thinks they're getting passed over for promotion because someone's brown. I want to see, who is this person? Where did you speak to him?
Yeah.
What absolute nonsense. It's too many chicks that should be in the typing pool instead of management positions, and they're only getting promoted because blah, 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 blah. David Seymour and his anecdotes. There's always an anecdote. He's always spoken to someone.
It's Trumpian.
That is putting words to this fear that so many ordinary, everyday New Zealanders, by which I mean white New Zealanders, are afraid of. Just when you see the pattern, you see it every time he talks.
Yep, I feel some people, what if one person does? Someone told me that. I spoke to someone who, all this kind of stuff. Second part of this interview that we want to play out. Now, we've talked about this a lot here. The idea about the treaty being an agreement between two parties, right? Iwi and the Crown. I've always said the way I think about it in incredibly oversimplified ways, it's a bit like a contract. You know, there's a party A and party B, they come to an agreement and they're the signatories to the agreement, the treaty, the contract, the whatever you will. And we've been saying this for a long time. You can't invite in a third party to your agreement. And the example I gave, which is probably oversimplified, is my contract or my agreement with my bank on my mortgage. If someone moves in next door, they all of a sudden can't say to my bank, well, I want to reset terms for Pat. It doesn't matter if he's not a part of this. It's like the two signatories have to get together and nut out to reignite or remake or redraw up the agreement. And we've been saying this for such a long time. And I'm not going to play a lot of the conversation from this morning, but Jack Tame spent about 3 minutes talking to Mr. Seymour about the agreement between two parties. And then he went to an example using the term contract. And this is the bit that I talked about earlier, where Seymour just nothing. He will not change. This is a perfectly logical equation that Jack Tame puts out there. And he just goes, nah, because. And this is the man who also talks about property rights. If it was an agreement between two parties on a property, you damn straight that ACT wouldn't put up with a third partner coming in to decide, you know what I'm saying? But because it's in his wheelhouse, and he wants to take away any help given to Māori. That's what it comes down to. He's happy for help to be given to other protected classes, but he doesn't want help given to Māori, and that's actually what it's about. Now, whether that's a genuine belief of his, Chewy, or whether that's actually fake and he's a grifter and he doesn't really believe that, but he's found his niche to get power, I actually don't know. But that's what he's talking about. So we'll play this bit from Jack Tame. I don't know how long we'll stick with it, but we'll have a bit of a listen to him talking about this like it's a contract.
Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith has previously supported an interpretation of the treaty as a contract. Can one party in a contract decide to reinterpret it without the consent of another signatory?
Well, sometimes you've got to go to someone else and ask, what does this contract mean for us today?
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't. Okay, so I take my contract with my bank. I take it to someone and goes, what does this mean? Shall I involve you to... No, you don't. The contract's between two parties. You don't get a third party to then tell the two parties, or one of the two parties, what it fucking means.
In fact, all contractual interpretations are usually arbitrated by a third party. In that case, I think it should be the highest court in the land, the parliament elected by the New Zealand people.
But in terms of population, non-Māori, represented in effect by the Crown, vastly outnumber Māori. In order for a truly democratic interpretation of the principles to pass into law, wouldn't any referendum require the support of the Crown and separately the consensus of iwi representing the signatories to the treaty?
Well, that's your view, but of course you assume in saying that that
you
the treaty is a partnership that gave people different rights and different mana based on their ancestry.
See, and this is the thing where I say he just will not. That's a really clear... I wonder if Jack's been watching, Chewy. We've got all these mainstream media picking up on the stuff that they're seeing on the internet, because that's what we've been saying for months. You've got two signatories. Those are the only two signatories that have any say in this agreement. And you'll have heard me say this before. To say to my racist Uncle Bob and Nelson, would you like to put your input on this agreement? It's not how contracts work. It's not how agreements work. You don't do it that way. The two signatories come together if there's going to be a change. And at the moment, one signatory is saying we need to change this, and the other signatory is they're either going no, or they're going, well, not until we sort a few things out, sunshine. Are we going to think about changing this or reordering this?
That the treaty is a partnership that gave people different rights and different mana based on their ancestry. I just reject that premise. Now,
but it was an agreement signed by two distinct signatories or two distinct parties.
Yes.
And if you're saying that one party gets to effectively veto what it means forever and a day, then you've already bought into the premise that there should be different sets of political rights for different New Zealanders.
You're saying that one party can do that?
No, I reject it. I reject the notion.
Yes, Jack Tame, one party is doing exactly that. It's the party that's not iwi is doing exactly that. And unfortunately, Mr. Seymour rejects that premise.
Isn't
rights
that
for
what
different
you're
New
saying?
Zealanders.
You're saying that one party can do that?
No, I reject it. I reject the notion you have that in order to have a discussion about the treaty, one side always has a veto. What I'm saying is that sometimes you've got to get an agreement arbitrated, and in my view, it is the role of New Zealand Parliament in a democratic society to uphold the universal rights of all New Zealanders.
So he's right in one thing, but he's missing a big part. If a contract needs to be renegotiated, you can involve a third party, yeah? But you can't do that based on one signatory's desire. If you're in a workplace and you have an agreement with your workplace and you get to the end of your agreement and you have to renegotiate it, you can get a third party in. You can't get a third party in if only the employee goes, yeah, we're going to renegotiate this contract, here's my third party. Even if you're in a union, it's a union member. Still, all the two parties have to agree to allowing the third party in, the arbitrator in. And that's not what's happening. It's basically saying, if you've got that employee-employer relationship, it's the employer saying, well, actually, what you want, employee, is going to be decided by this third party. It's not how contracts work. It's just not. And this is what I'm saying, Joe. I don't know if you've heard it any more clearly. He will not budge. He won't budge. No matter what's put in front of him now, he will not budge.
He is very clear in the fact that what his end goal is, what he prefers is you know, and I hate that he does this. I hate that he co-opts the language of other struggles. He's talking about one person, one vote. He has talked about apartheid in the past. And if this goes down to one person, one vote, and Māori are 19% of the country, they're going to get fucked on. And we have seen this play out.
But
we've seen this play out with the voice referendum in Australia.
My question
and that's
is,
what he wants there, because he's backed by the same group.
My question is this: who does he think has two votes? Like, even if we take a step back and go, seeing it from he's saying, if he says one person, one vote, who doesn't have that now? Who doesn't have one vote now? Is there some cabal I don't know that are getting 4 votes in the ballot box that I haven't heard about?
No.
What is he saying?
No. It's this whole thing of like everyone needs to be voted into your local board or that sort of thing. We can't have a set aside one Māori representative on a council or a community board or something that's looking after it. We can't have it because it's not democratic. No, we can have democratic structures. We just need to have the carve out for Māori in this country, because that's what the agreement is. It just baffles me. Like, let's get King Charles on the phone and ask him what his great-great-grandmother would have thought.
Yeah.
Like, is that what we're at? But yeah, it comes down to the fact that we've got someone that's trying to reinterpret a founding document in this country to disadvantage the first people here. And I know that there's going to be people in the YouTube comments later that are saying, no, the first people here were from the moon, or they were Celtic, or some other nonsense.
Would you like me to put that to bed? No, I could put that to bed for you if you wanted to. Like
white people.
No, I can put that to bed, because the idea of who was indigenous is that people who were here pre-colonization who are still here today. That's the definition of what indigenous is. So even if someone from China sailed here before Māori and that was all theories or Celtic people, then they're not here through colonization. They're not here through England turning up and saying mine. So they're not. It's irrelevant. So it's not just a red herring. Even if they're right, it's irrelevant, because that's not what indigenous is. So there you go.
I utterly reject Seymour's position on this. Utterly, with every fibre of my being, reject his position on this. I reject the damage that it is doing to the progress that has been made over the last 25, 40 years of struggle. And I utterly reject Christopher Luxon's lack of spine on this, lack of leadership.
Yep.
It's depressing.
Yep.
I was talking in the chat just before, right? So let's look at John Key's government, right? They didn't come down on Māori like this. In fact, they made huge progress with treaty claims and Crown apologies and that sort of thing. They Chris Finlayson?
Yep. He's the man.
Yep, doing the work.
And all of those guys are now saying to National, you guys have this wrong. All of that crew, they're all saying this is not right, guys. So all the previous ministers and the Chris Finlaysons of the world are all saying, you guys aren't right. This is not right.
Yeah. Just as an aside, there's a bunch of people trying to put comments in the chat that aren't getting through to the filters because you keep on calling people retards and cucks. And keep trying, because it gives me a little giggle every time.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a moderator in there now, but we have our...
Oh, no, it's not even getting to the moderation status.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just getting caught by the auto filter. Because
that's the thing. We have our moderation set quite high, so I love watching comments saying, "Oh, all you guys do are delete comments." Like, I don't think I've ever deleted a comment on YouTube. I don't think.
This is probably a good, because we haven't had to mention this for a long time. This doesn't have to be an echo chamber. We're quite happy to have opposing views in the chat. All that we ask is that you come with basically respect for everybody in the chat and respect for us, and and just basically put forward your argument. Like there's a couple of key personalities in the chat that disagree with us a lot, but they do it without calling us cucks, retards, communists, fucking soy boys. What's some of the other woke tards?
Oh, I still don't know why I still don't know why neckbeard is an offensive thing, but there you go.
You can't even see
let me say, I don't even personally care about that. What I care about in the chats for the show is actually that they don't take away from the other people's experiences. That's really all it is for me. It's like, I don't feel the need for people to be respectful of me. I don't care. Do what you want, but it's if it becomes a problem in the chat and takes away from other people's experience. That's when people will get nutted out of there.
I mean, there's a couple of people in the chat. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with your positions. Like if this was just under a news story on a Facebook, I'd probably wait in. But I'm busy doing a show. But they aren't name calling. They're just coming out with different positions, and people are discussing it and that sort of thing. If you come in with insults and just trolling, then mā te wā, walk into the sea, go boil your head, that sort of thing. But
does it go flatten your nose? The guy last night going flat your nose.
Oh, that was good. Like here's the thing: if you were sitting down, like say we were all at the pub, right, and we're just let's solve all the world's problems, right? And you were across the bar and you saw us having a discussion, and back and forth. Some people are disagreeing with it. Would you just walk across the bar, point at someone and go, "You're a retard, lefty cuck, fuck you"? No, you'd get glassed. So treat chat like a pub conversation. I've had very robust conversations with people where we don't disagree, we don't agree with each other, and it hasn't come to blows. And sometimes the goalposts shift, and people go, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that point of view. Well, I'll give it some more thought." And that's what happens when a discussion happens. You spend too much time in the New Zealand Herald's comment section, you lose that part of your brain. If you hang around an hour, it might come back. Yeah. That's medical advice from Dr. Chewy.
As you're saying that, I'm just reporting someone on my Instagram who has just told me that my face rearranged.
Oh, nice.
So
get your brain rearranged.
Okay, guys, I think we're done for tonight. This has been, I guess, a normal length show. It's a bit short for us, but we weren't sure whether we were going to be here or not, to be perfectly honest with you. So there's just too much going on that we sort of had to be here. Frosty's put a couple of super chats in there, so thank you for those. Late fee, that was a little bit old, that one, isn't it? Oh no, that wasn't 9:54. It's not that long ago. Luxon is trying to shift responsibilities to his ministers because he's a flake. Yeah, that's we talked about this before. That's like the CEO saying, "Well, that's manager XYZ's issues. You go and talk to them." Like, I do get that vibe a little bit. That's why he made Luxon the Associate Minister for Justice, responsible for the treaty referendum, because now Luxon can go, "Well, that's his department. Go and talk to him. I don't want to talk to you about it." Frosty also says, will there ever be a night where viewers debate you guys, like Discord debate night or something along those lines? Yeah, look, I mean, we're probably getting to the size, like some groups do, some people in America who do this kind of thing, do AMAs, ask me anything. Maybe. I mean, I mean, this is not big if you guys watch some international ones, but we're basically at 400 live viewers at the moment, and we've had 400 live viewers last night. So, it's pretty easy to get 10 people from there who want to come and ask us a question. Yeah, maybe. I mean, we do Discord typically on Thursday nights, but I have to be honest, Discord is still kind of second priority, because if there's a good news story, we'll still do that first. So we have the ability to do it. I've been thinking, Mr. David Packman has this thing where he has an answer phone, so people can phone through and ask questions on the answer phone, and then they can be replayed. I was thinking that might be an idea.
Maybe we should get a fax machine, Pat.
Fax machine. Just the facts, man. Just the facts. All right, guys.
Like when we open it up to Discord, like it's just we grab whoever's in Discord at the time to talk to us. So, yeah, Frosty, just make sure you got Discord. That's how we do it.
I think Frosty talked to us last Thursday, actually. And I think the sum total. Yep. I think the sum total of Frosty's conversation was, "How are you, boys?" which was cool. All right, guys, that's us for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night. There is going to be more to come this week. We all are waiting with bated breath at the next piece of investigative journalism that Spiderhoof releases before anybody else, that we get to play second, and then the mainstream media will pick it up the day after. So we're looking forward to that. And also, who's going to hear first Luxon address the issue of the repeating the speech, because he won't get away from an interview this week without that being asked. Will he answer it? And when will that come up? Or is he going to go hide from the media for a few days now for it to die down? Because that's something to be really aware of. The other thing that Luxon's got up his sleeve is there's a lot of turmoil at the moment around this treaty referendum, yeah? If it doesn't go past the first bill and everyone breathes a sigh of relief, you just can't forget. Like, I remember when I was at university, what they used to say at university was they were going to go, oh, your fees are going to go up by 30% next year. And we'd all be like, how, what? Fees are going to go up by 30%. Oh, and you'd complain and you'd bitch and you'd moan. And then they'd go, oh, look, we've had a look. They're only going to go up by 10%. And everyone would go, oh, phew, aren't we lucky? They wouldn't go, what? That's still a 10% increase. Like, depending on how they couch this, and if they get away from it sooner rather than later, then come next election, it'll be so much history or yesterday's news that no one will hold them accountable for it. So it's also really important to remember what's going on now and to make sure we don't let it go, as they say in Frozen, and hold them accountable for the things that they are saying and doing. Continue, even if it does go away, to still do that. Yeah. All right. Anything else, Joey?
I got one before I go, because obviously it's a live show, so people have taken the feedback live. So Michael here in the chat, you're not a neckbeard. You may be a left-wing shill, but that beard is full, fantastic, and glorious. See, now that's perfect, right? Because I'm confused now. I don't know if it's an insult or a compliment. So it's got through the filter.
I don't understand why people think we're left-wing shills. That implies being paid by someone. Like, people used to talk about being, getting government money or public money. None of it. People often go, Chewy, okay, so these guys do a lot of these. I made 78 pieces of content last week. 78 pieces of content. If you go from the live show to the YouTube clips, to the Twitter clips, to the TikTok clips, I made 78 pieces of content. And people are like, oh, they must be getting paid. And it's like, actually, what we're becoming? We're becoming listener supported and viewer supported. Our Patreon and stuff at the moment is actually getting to a point where it's still not paying for it, but it's getting to a point where actually we might have a talk later in the week to have a BHN whānau meeting about what's happening and what could happen from here, because we're actually getting close. If we include the merch averages, et cetera, and a couple of advertisers that we're talking to at the moment about maybe being able to at least offset the losses at the moment financially that are coming out of back pockets. But it's listener supported, and that's and we get a couple of $100 a month from YouTube, not a lot, but a little bit here and there. So that's where we are.
You look at the media landscape, both like traditional and non-traditional media landscape. There are plenty of right-wing talking heads and right-wing perspectives out there. That's why we spun this up. We're unapologetically lefty.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I wish he would. I'm not proud. I mean, if we found the right partner, the right business partner to go with, I would. If we found the right partner that gave us the autonomy to keep doing what we were doing and not have any editorial input, I totally would partner with someone.
I can literally, my opinion can be bought with a year's supply of beard oil and Arnott's shapes. So there we go. I'm just putting that out to the universe.
All right, guys, we're going to go now. I have to go and make sure I call
it's got up, silly now.
Yeah, call up our left wing.
Too much fun has been having,
and just remind them how the show went. Go over all the notes they wanted to make me sure that I got out there tonight, like all the scripts that me and Chewy had to read about Seymour, which we were given to by, our overlords, and I'll check in with them.
We do have that conference call with Jacinda and George and others, so we best wrap this up.
Yeah,
we're always late to that.
All right, team. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. # share our shit. Come back tomorrow night. Bring a friend. We'll see you then. Hooroo.
Cool. Cheers, fam.